Skirmish or big army? Which is better? Hello hobbyists, and welcome to the next episode of Hobby Time. Today we're discussing the two different types of miniature games that you'll mostly see the majority of games become. Either large-scale battle games where you need lots and lots of miniatures to play, or small-scale skirmish games where you only need maybe 5 miniatures to play the game. But which one of these is better? Which one should you get into? Of course, if you've seen episode 1 of Hobby Time, you know my opinion of trying out starter games. Here being the big starter kit for 10th edition of Warhammer 40k, here being the starter kit for Blood Red Skies. But even in your genre of sci-fi, realistic, fantasy, there are multiple games that are broken down into whether or not they are a skirmisher or a large-scale battle. So let's break down each one and start with large-scale battles. Large-scale battle games, much like Warhammer 40k being probably one of the most popular large-scale battle games, are games where you need lots and lots of models to play the game. Even to compensate like a 2,000 point game, you're going to need a good chunk worth of models. These games are also a lot more expensive because of the amount of models you need to play these games. Sure, you can buy bigger models that might cost more points, but those bigger models do cost more money as well. And you can't field a lot of them as well. It's not going to make a great army. It may not be a lot of fun. You need the infantry units, you need your leaders, you need all those extra little things you need. So that's what large-scale battles are about. If you like lots of models on the battlefield, moving along the battlefield, shooting guns, throwing arrows, casting spells, and everything, then this is a game for you. But understand that these games take quite a while to play. I think a 2,000 point game of Warhammer 40k is like 2 to 4 hours, I think they recommend. If you play a 1,000 or even lower than that, then you might be in about an hour. But still, even at a low point cost, you can still get a lot of models in for lower point cost. Just look at the Orcs army for Warhammer 40k. You can get a lot of Orcs for some good points. So these types of games are mainly meant to, if you really like painting lots of models and you just want to spew models across a battlefield and just watch them all go pew pew, throw throw, cast cast. They're also about painters who enjoy large-scale games. Now, Warhammer 40k isn't the only game in there. For instance, bolt action would be considered a large-scale battle because you're using a lot of models. So that's just another example. But truth be told, this type of game is probably the most common game you'll see. A lot of people like these games. Flames of War, Team Yankee, Victory at Seas. Let's see, what other games do I paint up? Conflict 47, Warhammer 40k, Combat Storm, a big game Paul and I love. That's an army style game. Most games you'll get into, even like Kings of War, Drop Zone. Let's see, I think Star Wars Armada, Star Wars Legion are all more considered army style games, and those are probably the more or less the games you'll find just because they're more popular. A lot of people like playing with a lot of models. A lot of people like playing gigantic battle scenes and stuff like that. People don't really like playing with 5 models that do this and do that, and you know, you have a whole different set of rules. Some people just like throwing a lot of models on a battlefield and having fun with them. And there's nothing wrong with this type of game. It's just that the games take a lot longer to play. They have a lot more rules in them. You have to paint a whole ton worth of models. So even to get like 2,000 points or even 1,000 points, and most games will run you about 2,000 points is probably the highest. I don't know for Team Yankee and or Flames War because they use a completely different style, but if you've seen some battle reports of them, there you can get a lot of tanks on the battlefield and a lot of little soldiers on the battlefield for your games. Star Wars Legion is no different. But yeah, these games have their place. If you're looking for large-scale battlefields and large-scale games and you can move lots of models and do lots of shooting, do lots of cool stuff, then these games are definitely for you. But if you don't want to spend a good chunk of your time painting, working on these models, and even a couple hours worth of playing the game, then you might want to be considering skirmish games. Now, what makes a skirmish game like Blood Red Skies different than your Warhammer 40Ks or your other big battle games? Easy. Model count. The model count in a skirmisher game is about 5 to maybe 10 models. If we take, for instance, like Kill Team, you might not have that many models in a Kill Team band. Take Marvel Crisis Protocol, probably one of the best skirmisher games out there. You can only include so many models in your army for the points. So there isn't that many. I think it's like 20 or so points I think they do, but most of the time you can only get like 4 to 5 models depending on who you pick into your army. Blood Red Skies. If we are playing about, I think the typical is 500 points. Yes, a 500 point battle report. You're only getting about, depending on what level of pilot skill you choose, about 5 planes, at the most 5 planes on the battlefield. So that's not a lot of things to play with. Battletech is notorious for being more of a skirmisher game because you don't have a lot of models. Star Wars Shatterpoint is another skirmisher game. Star Wars X-Wing would be considered a skirmisher game. To me, skirmisher games are if you want to sit around a little table, play with your friends, drink some beers, kids drink water, and just have some good fun. That's what skirmisher games are. They're quicker games because they only might last you an hour to play, because they're not as long as big armies. You don't have as many models to move around. You don't have, say, 100 plus models or 50 plus models you have to move around. Now you have this one model, this one model, this one model. You might have a completely easier rule set because, again, these models counts are so small. You don't need expansive rules for a whole army of models. You only need maybe a small chunk of rules per model. But the problem is, a lot of times people don't like skirmisher games because, again, they're just so small. Well, I want to run about 50 dudes on a battlefield. I want to run all the boats I can run. I want to run American soldiers dropping out of the sky. I want to run a large-scale group of Tyranids. I can't do that in a skirmisher game. And that is true. Skirmisher games are also a lot quicker to paint up because you only have so many models you have to paint. So if you're building a kill team of Space Marines and say you only need 6 Space Marines to build your kill team, then you can paint 6 Space Marines. Also, it's a great fact that if you're building smaller team armies, you can actually spend a little more time painting your models, getting the details and stuff, rather than when you're trying to build a big army for like a 2,000 point game, Warhammer 40k, you might not spend all that time on detail. So there is a difference in painting style where you can spend probably more time detailing models that you're going to play with in a skirmisher game than you might for a big army game. Now personally, I feel myself going more towards skirmishers. Maybe it's because as the sole painter of this channel, I a lot of times feel better about skirmisher games because I can get models quickly painted up and so we can get them on the board. Where big scale games, I'll maybe have to spend a year. Who knows how long it may take me to get enough models painted up so that we can play the game. Where skirmishers, I can get a quick skirmisher box, maybe an expansion with like 5 models in them, and then suddenly, hey, we're on the tabletop where we're playing the game. In my opinion, I don't know what a lot of the disadvantages of skirmishers. Maybe because I've played so much skirmisher games and painted up so much stuff for skirmisher games, and I'm really more preferred to skirmisher games just because they're quicker to play, quicker to get on a tabletop, and they are quicker to paint all together and then play with, rather than the big armies, which I may take a year or months to paint up enough models to even get it on a tabletop to play it. But if you do know any cons that you've seen playing skirmisher games, please let me know down in the comments. I'm more than happy to read them. So, which one is better? Skirmishers or army? Yeah, that's really up to you. And it really is up to you. What playstyle do you want? Do you want quicker games you can play and not spend hours playing the game? Or do you paint only a few models? Or do you want to paint whole armies of models, play for a good couple of hours, and just have jokes and fun with your friends? It really kind of just comes boiling down to you. Both styles have their pros and cons. Pros, you can get a lot of models, you can have a lot of fun. If you're looking for long days just to play and joke and roll dice, you got plenty in an army game. There's plenty of soldiers to throw on a battlefield. There's plenty of soldiers to move. There's just so much fun you can have with it. Skirmisher games, they're quick, fast. They don't have big rule sets because a lot of times you're not using a lot of models. You're only using a small amount of models. It could take only about an hour to play, and maybe you can do this in a tournament setting, you know, where you don't feel like you're going to spend half a day, have to spend 3 or 4 days playing a game. Cons. Army games are a lot more expensive because you have to buy so many models. skirmisher games are a little cheaper because you only need to buy the little expansions you want to add on to your armies. You don't have to buy every expansion. You don't have to buy a lot of models. For instance, if you're a Marvel Crisis Protocol person and you only want to play the Avengers, you only need to collect the Avengers. And the Avengers you like. You only like Iron Man, and collect some Iron Mans. You only like to play Spider-Man, there's plenty of Spider-Man out there. So you only have to collect the Avenger models you're looking for. And this, well, hopefully you like a lot of the models in the line. A con I would say for skirmisher games is that they're very limited in the amount of models. A lot of times, as I said in like Marvel Crisis Protocol, you may only have the Avengers, you may only have the Brotherhood Mutant. In Blood Red Skies, if you don't like one of the nations and one of the nation's planes, you're not going to have a lot of things. Another is if your con is this, is if you're into big battles and rolling lots of dice and moving lots of models, you're not going to find any joy in moving 5 models and that being it. So really it all comes down to you. Are you someone who wants to play skirmishers, or are you someone who wants to play army? And of course there's more pros and cons I didn't go into. It really just defines, do your research, figure out what you like. If you know friends who like big army games and have some big army games, then check them out with your friends, play them. If you know friends who play skirmisher games and like skirmisher games, talk to them, check out their skirmisher games and try them out. Really, in the end, it comes down to what you want to do. Do you want to spend big money on big army games, or do you want to spend a little less money on skirmisher games? Do you like small model counts? Do you want large model counts? Do you want to spend hours playing one game? Do you want to spend, say, hours playing multiple games? Again, it really just comes down to doing your personal research and seeing what you kind of like. Again, I lean more to skirmishers just because personally for me, they're quick to paint up and quick to get to the tabletop, and then they're quick to record and have battle reports. I can get a large amount of battle reports done in skirmisher games than I could with, Paul and I sat around and played 2 hours. A game of Blood Red Skies, if Paul and I were to play 500 points, is about 30 to 45 minutes to record. That's it. When we play about a lowest point of combat storm, about a 2,000 points typically, if we were to play 1,000 to 2,000 points, that's about an hour to 2 hours. If we go up to 2,000, that's about 2 to 3 hours of Paul and I just playing. And again, I cut all of that stuff out when I am editing up our battle reports. You don't get to see all the nuanced stuff in the background. You just get to see what I cut into the battle report, and that's it. But again, I do enjoy Combat Storm. I really enjoy having all these models I can throw all these dice in. And I do enjoy Blood Red Skies because I do get to fly so little models across the battlefield. So in the end, it really just matters on you. Which one do you prefer? Which one would you rather play? And which one really just excites you? Skirmishers or large-scale battle games? But let me know down in the comments pros and cons for both. Which ones do you prefer? Do you prefer skirmisher games or large-scale battle games? Which one have you played the most? Which one do you think takes the longest to paint? Do you spend more time detailing models in skirmisher games than you do big army games? Or do you think you spend more time detailing your big army games than you would your skirmisher games? Let me know down in the comments as well. And while you're commenting all that stuff, do make sure to like the video, do make sure to subscribe to the channel, and do make sure to ring the bell so you get notified if my videos go live for you. And we'll see you here next time on Mama Dragon's Miniatures.